The Tear-Filled Tinderbox by Maureen Battleship. I was basically thrilled, is what he said. He was smiling too, so it seemed true, or true enough. The last time that I had seen a man so happy, it was when he was a child, and he was showing me the trick his mum had shown, about a buttercup twirled beneath the chin. "It only goes yellow if you like butter," he said. So I, like a young Richard Dawkins, took it away and went looking for someone who didn't like butter so I could prove it was not true. But I, like an old Richard Dawkins, could not find anyone who didn't like butter. Weeks later I was sent to school, and many years went by until, at age 13 or so, I was dared by the boys to hide beneath some coats at the top of the room to see could I stay covert for the whole of a class with a substitute teacher. It was obvious, I guess, how that would go. I'd be hid behind, doing the odd and amusing peek out, until eventually one of the lads would decide that it would be even funnier to see me getting caught, so he'd suggest to the poor addled moonchore that she check beneath the duffels and the anoraks because he thought he'd seen something moving. It might have been a mouse. And then they'd see the crack that might ensue. Well, I decided to pull a treble, or quadruple, bluff, and hide under the coats without anybody knowing. And then, no special plan, but just to improvise from there. So, I crept into the classroom at midways through the lunch break. There was a 20-minute gap before anyone would come to class, so I could set myself up secretly and be there by surprise. For why? I'm not too sure. I took up my position in the corner and buried me beneath a randomly arranged looking scatter. Crouched so still as Robin Hood, I made a little eye door in the mess and snuck a sneaky peer about around the room, I still pretending not to be. It was a fairly boring thing for a book so full of fun as I, like a ninja with ADHD, I was desperate for the class to come so that some action of interest might start. Instead of watching nothing, school desks, row by row, reminding me of the unhealed story of the universe before the Big Bang. Bung. A boy came in, a lad I knew not well. He was a small enough and fairly unkempt fellow, an eccentric in his way. He did not always say so much, but he was a weird and playful sort about a buttercup. I did not know much else but that he was he and in my class and someone that I liked. For why? I'm not too sure. He sat down in his designated seat. His hair was long, his fringe into his eyes, and he cried. Tears that streamed and steamed like balls of wet. He cried, and I felt that as he did, it was his bit of comfort for the day. For why? I'm not too sure. A mostly stranger, just like me to you, or you to him, or him to her. Most of us are mostly strangers here, 10 feet away. He cried, and I stayed completely still. He cried, and though I could hear every bubble, pop, and sniff, it was a secret yell, a suppressed and silent special moment in his dark. He flung on, and I let him so, till all too soon he glanced up at the clock. The time for him so must have been his cue to quit, and he ceased. He wiped his eyes upon his cuff and pressed a toilet tissue to his nose. The bell rang. It startled me, but glad I am to say I did not jolt. He was stood up then, breathed deeply once and twice. The door opened and the class began to pile in, a raucous, tumbling, uphill dance. Some gave to him a greeting, and he grinned and said some dirty thing that drew a laugh. Then he stepped out of the room, and I used the melee to spot a spot of time where I could sort of swipe out casually. One lad, a pal, turned into me confused. "Where the fuck were you cunt?" he asked. I mirrored back in his confusion. "Did you go home for lunch or something?" "Yeah, I did, yeah, so what?" He looked for a second at the pile of coats behind me. I thought he might pursue the line of questioning, but fortunately another character leapt upon his back and put him in a sleeper hold. I, of course, began to wrestling commentate. I raised his arm. He let it drop in jest, as if knocked out. 1, 2, 3.